Okay. Gentlemen, can we get started? Thank you.
Our chairman wants us.
Well, time has come. Okay, I'd like to call to order the Planning Commission public hearing for September 17th, 2019. For the record, Commissioners Vigliotti, Watson, Sanft, Staley, and Patuski are here, and no alternates at the moment. We're here to hear the petition before us for 60 Twin Oaks Terrace, which has been advertised in the Connecticut Post. Before calling the first petition, I would like those of you who have never appeared before us, that it is the policy of this commission to have questions of the petitioner directed through the chairman. The chair reserves the right to rule on cross-examination for the purpose of clarification of technical questions. I wish to announce that should any items on tonight's agenda take more than anticipated, the public hearing may conclude at 11 p.m. and be continued to another date which will be established at that time. Any items not heard by 11 p.m. tonight will be heard at the continued public hearing. For the record, the petitions to be heard were advertised in the Connecticut Post on September 4th and September 11th. These properties were duly posted on site on September 10th, 2019. Okay, now. Okay, the petition before us is for Przinski Manor in an RS3 zoning district, 60 Twin Oaks Terrace, and they're asking to do a subdivision, 2 lots, each being half an acre. And they are asking for a waiver of town sidewalks and underground utilities. And I believe there are people here from the petitioner, correct? Hi. Could you please state your name?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and board members. My name is Robert Rosati. I'm an attorney here in Stratford with my father, Thomas Rosati. Our office is at 3241 Main Street, Stratford. I'm also a resident of Stratford. I'm here tonight representing the applicant and the developer on the application, Charles Carroll and Sons, LLC. This is a 2-lot re-subdivision application. Before I go any further, I do have the certificates of mailings that I'd like to pass forward. If you look at the map that was submitted, this is a pretty straightforward application. It's an application for 2 lots. There's an existing house that will remain on the fully conforming lot in the RS3 zone. That's parcel B on the map submitted. And then there will be a new conforming lot, parcel A, with frontage on Twin Oaks Terrace. That's where the new single-family home will be built by the Carrolls. It will conform to all setbacks and all requirements of the RS3 zone. Both lots are oversized lots. 10,000 square feet is required in the RS3 zone. These lots will both have over 22,000 square feet, so density will not be a problem here. This is a level piece of property. It's pretty straightforward. The Carrolls are going to build a colonial-style single-family home on the lot, again, parcel A. That home will fit into the character of the neighborhood. The size of the lots will fit into the size of the lots that are in the RS3 zone. A new home will certainly add value to the existing homes. Everybody knows Mr. Carroll's reputation in town. His workmanship is of the highest quality. They are excellent builders, so this newly constructed home is going to be an asset and a great addition to Twin Oaks Terrace. And again, both lots and the home to be built are going to fully conform or exceed the RS3 requirements. The waivers that we are asking for, those are for the sidewalks and the underground utilities, for the simple fact that there's no sidewalks and there's overhead utilities, so we need those waivers to conform to the existing conditions on Twin Oaks Terrace. There is access for the new home to the existing sewer, water, and gas lines. I don't believe that this raises any concerns with the police, fire, building, health, engineering, or public works departments. Again, we're not building any roads, we're not extending any roads. We have full frontage on Twin Oaks Terrace. My client, he's built a few homes in his day, so he knows how to deal with the drainage requirements. This home is going to be constructed, and the roof drains and the stormwater is going to be handled where there's not going to be added stormwater runoff. I know that's a concern with engineering. Mr. Carroll will deal with the engineering department to satisfy them. That's during the permit process. He's not going to be able to get his permit signed off on until he satisfies Mr. Casey and the engineering, and Mr. Carroll certainly knows how to construct a home that doesn't create storm water runoff issues. Again, I think because it fully complies, we get this new lot as a matter of right, this two-lot re-subdivision as a matter of right, but more importantly, it fits in harmony with the neighborhood, and it fits the objectives and policies of our subdivision regulations, regulations. And the big thing is, we're not creating a density issue. These are oversized lots, so it's in the best interest of the developer and the town to go forward with this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of the petitioner?
I do.
Mr. Watson?
You might be able to answer really quickly. You have a right-of-way driveway.
Excuse me, sir?
The property that shows connected in the upper right parcel B shows a right-of-way, an existing or unused driveway area.
There's going to be those are existing conditions, but there's going to be constructed with the new home, a new driveway that services that home only.
And are you looking, do you see it, when I'm talking about the upper portion of the, up in here?
Oh, no, that's on other land, sir. Yeah, that's on other land.
But it says private right-of-way to other land of Brzezinski.
Yeah, give me one moment. That's for other land of Brzezinski. I think Mr. Carroll's familiar with it. All I can say is we're not intending to utilize that.
I just don't want to see us go over the property. That's my concern. It causes nothing but headaches for planning.
Let me enter my name and I'll answer that question to the best of my ability. Good evening, Madam Chair and Ms. Tolley and members of my name is Charles Kerr. I live at 120 Candlewood Road, Stratford, Connecticut. I'm a contractor in the town of Stratford since 1964. And this driveway that you're making reference to, years ago, in 1938, they used it for landscaping business and whatnot, and then, of course, yes, and that was prior to the house to the right, kind of taking it off there. So if you can see the new subdivision line here. So this is completely empty where the new lot is gonna go. There's no driveway, there's nothing on there, it's just grass area and trees. Yes, Miss?
And how about the 20-foot right-of-way on the 30 Twin Oaks?
No, there is, as I say, that was abandoned years ago.
Abandoned?
Yes,
But
gone.
You're still listing that as property owned by Brzezinski in some
No,
sense.
that's not on this portion. That's on the portion next to it here.
It's so that,
I mean,
It's,
can I see this?
there's a third lot.
no. See where it ends? It ends, this is the,
Excuse me, let me answer. So that's, that lot,
goes with number 30.
30 Twin Oaks,
30 Twin Oaks.
that was other land that was owned by Brzezinski. Brzezinski is going to retain ownership of parcel B. We're only acquiring parcel A and developing parcel A. So whatever rights Brzezinski had, exactly.
That was sold.
Essentially, that is, it's two lots that were grandfathered.
Exactly. Those aren't going to carry over to.
My only interest is in
The-
Helsing as having abandoned property.
No,
Yeah.
in fact, that,
It's very expensive for the town.
No, you're right.
Number 30 Twin Oaks Terrace, if you don't pardon my interruption here, was sold 5 years ago. And they indicated that just to show anything that was here before or since 1938. That's why they
That was my real,
put that in.
my only real question.
No,
Yeah, it's
has
it's
no association with it.
it's not part of the development of parcel A.
And it's being taxed with lot 30.
Yes, yes.
I didn't quite get that. The 20-foot right-of-way that existed is now part...
That's a private right-of-way that was there in connection with other land owned by Brzezinski.
Right.
Mr. Carroll is only acquiring ownership of parcel A and developing parcel A as a single-family dwelling, and his driveway will be off of Twin Oaks, and there won't be any utilization of that
But what
20-foot
happens to it?
right-of-way. It doesn't go by contract with this parcel A.
Doesn't have anything to do with what's going on.
Right.
What's the approximate size of the house you're building?
2,200 square feet. Two-story, two-car garage.
Oh, yeah, I see there.
It's conforming.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And one more question, if you don't mind. Mr. Rosati, Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
there'll be no problems with the existing lines creating a new lot, Lot A, with the existing buildings south.
No, meet all the requirements. We're not asking for any waivers.
Setbacks.
There's no other
Right, but they're
requirements.
not in here.
Yeah.
You know, it's 2.5 times the size that required for an RS3 zone.
And if you look at the grid, the existing house and garage that remain at parcel B, there are no setback issues there. The house to be constructed will satisfy all front, side, and rear setback requirements of the RS3 zone.
You're talking about, excuse me, you're speaking of parcel B? You're speaking of parcel A.
I'm speaking of parcel A, but also because even though we're not building, because it is part of this re-subdivision, whatever's existing fully complies as well.
The only thing I would see would be
Yeah.
the eastern
So they can't
portion
come
of
back and say, hey, you're too close.
two-car
Gotta have,
garage.
well, you gotta get
That's a detached garage that
Is grandfathered with the close.
it's,
Well, not only that, but it meets all,
It-
you know, in order to have a
it-
detached garage, you have to be 65 feet from the front property line and minimum 3 foot from the side yard for a
And-
detached garage.
And
And
it looks like you're.
this is 75 feet and 4 feet. So again, we're asking for no waivers.
Okay. Sidewalks and the utilities.
And the sidewalks, again, as Attorney Rosati said, there's no sidewalks on both sides of the street. You know, it's gonna be sidewalks to nowhere, should we put them in there. And the town's gonna charge me for not putting them in anyway, so it'd probably be cheaper if I went ahead and put them in.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay. Smitha?
Any other questions?
So the sidewalk fee will be determined by the town engineer if this gets approved, and the applicant has to post a bond in that amount with the finance department.
Yeah, that's how it's been done in the past.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you,
For your
thank you.
attentiveness.
Okay, I will be next asking members of the public to comment in favor or opposition to the petition. I will also allow general comments and observations from those who are neither in favor or opposition to the petition. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the petition? Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the petition? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the petition? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the petition? Is there anyone who is neither in favor nor in opposition, but who wishes to provide comments on the petition? Is there anyone who is neither in favor nor in opposition, but who wishes to provide comments on the petition? Hearing none, I would take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
I heard Jim, and I heard Mr. Senft. So, Mr. Vigliotti and Mr. Senft, thank you very much. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, so that's unanimous. All right. So now we can go into our administrative meeting for September 17th. And I would like a motion to take the petition of Robert Przezinski off the table. Mr. Senft?
So moved.
Thank you. Second, Mr. Vigliotti. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All, so that's unanimous. Okay, any further discussion? Or would someone like to offer a motion?
I would like to make one comment for the record.
Okay.
I understand why you do not want to put sidewalks, where there are no existing sidewalks on a dead-end street. It doesn't really make sense. But, right, that property abuts Pumpkin Ring Road, right, which connects to the Roosevelt Field Trailhead. And there are probably over a mile worth of sidewalks in that area, except for a 2-block area that's missing sidewalks. So, if we could forward that information on to planning, that it would be a great place to recommend we take the funds from this waiver, and it would affect that neighborhood, but it would also complete a complete walkway to Roosevelt through that area.
So you're making the suggestion that
Just
the
make
funds,
an administrative note to our
Town
town
planner.
Public Works Department, our engineer, whoever, that the funds be applied to completing that section of sidewalk.
I can certainly convey that to them, but I just want to add something. Because there are some areas in the town that badly need sidewalks, like commercial areas, industrial areas where they're heavily trafficked and where, you know, it is very difficult to even cross the street for pedestrians. Compared to those areas, this is a largely residential area, and I was there, in fact, last Friday to visit the site to see if the sign is still there. And the traffic on the street is very less, and it's predominantly the character of the single-family homes in this area is such that there are wider street widths for people to walk. And I understand, I hear your concern. I would definitely convey it to them. I'm not the person who's going to decide on what goes where. But my assumption is that if they had to decide as a priority, they might pick the ones like Lordship or like Barnum Avenue, where there are some areas where the sidewalk network is cut off.
Okay. Well, as long as it's conveyed for their
Yes,
consideration.
I will definitely convey that to them. And it's not my call, it's the town engineer and the public works.
The reason I make the comment is that
we are trying to increase the use of Roosevelt as a resource, and that would actually do one more step to getting people to actually use it.
Okay.
Okay. So we're still waiting on a motion to accept?
Yeah, so I'd like to
or
make a motion that we approve 60 Twin Oaks Terrace petition of Robert Brzezinski
With the waivers?
with the waivers
Okay,
as designated.
okay. Yes. Second. Okay, seconded by Mr. Staley. Okay, all in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. So that passes unanimously. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming and making your presentation.
I should have addressed you as Madam Planner, because I was afraid to butcher your name. I apologize.
That's-
You can call me town planner, that's enough.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck with your construction. All righty. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the meeting of August 20th, 2019. Motion by Mr. Watson, second by Mr. Vigliotti. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. So it passes unanimously. We have no zoning referrals. We have no campsite reviews, but we do have an 824 review, which is the abandonment of Orono Place, Leslie Street, and Charlotte Street, which I'm sure you all know is up in the north end, adjacent to Ryder's Landing and Main Street. Do you want to make a comment first, or?
I don't have any comments to this. I think it's fairly simple. They want to utilize this as part of their development strategy. They already got a zoning approval to do what they want to do in terms of commercial development. So I leave it to you on, if you have any comments on this.
Mr. Watson?
Yes, once again, I can't find it. Mr. Vansky followed through very specifically the request with zoning that Vanity Street was always part of the concept plan, and they went for the change. But he would like to ensure that the easements are in place to ensure public access to and along the waterfront. That's a key feature in the northern part of our POCD, the vista of that. And it's critical that we not just have a second-rate little catch again. We had actually spoken with them when they originally came in that we enhance it, and it would be a way to achieve part of our greenway connection to the Sikorsky Bridge by going to the back of the Ryder property, and it would take people off the busiest, most dangerous part of that road, and would eliminate a problem that would allow us really to get more people to use this Sikorsky Trail. So I will echo and second what Jay had said in his writing, that we really need to make sure that the plans are saying that we're, it looks like they have room. I see something that looks like a squirrely net with a little bit of a trail through there, but I can't tell on the scale of these drawings.
Okay. If I may add, I do agree with you. There was actually a state project to clean up the site adjacent to the Riders Landing, where, they have all this tank, an open tank there right now, and they're planning to renovate it. And at that time also, we tried to request the state to see if we can have a public vista or access by the waterfront. I don't think they wanted public access through the property, but they were willing to do some, cleanup or something related to the property. But again, I echo you, and I have seen the coastal waterfront plan back in the 90s when it was done. I've read that, the coastal, the POCD and everything reiterates that, public access to waterfront is an important goal of the long-range planning of the town. So considering John Casey's comments too, which actually specify more in detail why the easement is necessary, I completely agree with Mr. Watson on this.
Thank you.
Yes.
I can add to that too, because I use that path quite often. So just where Main Street hits Charlotte, that's just a heavily congested area. You got people coming off the Parkway. There are no crosswalks there. So anybody that lives in the Main Street Putney area, residentially up in that particular area, the access is scary and dangerous coming down. First of all, just coming down Main Street Putney, but then you know, to try to get over to Riders Lane or underneath the viaduct to get to where the Sikorsky pathway is, it's dangerous at best. So and normally what people are doing is they're going over to the commuter lot, parking over by the commuter lot, and then they've got to cross that street, which is dangerous in itself. So I think any improvement and anything that we can do over there would be well worth it, and I think the people that use that pathway would really benefit from it and eliminate any type of incidences that we have.
And it's actually exactly what we're talking about for Stratford, is walkability, rideability in a commercial area. So if we could get them to buy into this as a concept, not just as a requirement, it actually would be win-win for everybody.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Staley, go ahead.
I had just a couple of thoughts on this matter. The abandoning of the streets, the unused streets. That was talked about and considered in the last development that was brought before the commission. This company is not referencing allowing that, but John, our engineer, mentioned the cut-off we would have to the access to waterfront. Is there anything further than that?
So like we were just discussing, the alternate is to request an easement, a public access easement through the property. Even if the streets are closed, it will be closed for vehicular access, but the public access easement would allow pedestrians and maybe bicyclists to, view the waterfront and access it.
So does this have to be done through a statutory discontinuous process, or does it just happen?
So you could approve the 8-24 and then maybe as a condition request the developer to obtain a public access easement from the town.
And also to,
To dedicate it as an easement to the town, I'm sorry.
and to construct it, can we ask them to construct a pathway, whether it be out of, asphalt or,
I don't think
can we do that?
development is 8-24. In this case, they're only looking at abandonment of street. They're not proposing any development. So I would be wary of requesting anything related to development. But, once the easement is in place, it's the town that controls the land. And, whenever the town wants, they can put whatever they want in the easement. Like using the sidewalk money to put a paved walkway or something.
Okay.
Can't you consider roadways and greenways to be equal transportation routes? Couldn't we tie the two together?
I think yes. Greenways off and on the roadway are both pedestrian access ways.
I know that when we spoke with, I believe we spoke with someone from some part of this development project, they were amenable to doing certainly along Main River Road or Main Street, doing the 10-foot, the 20-foot with 10 feet of a bike walk path.
Okay.
Bricked in and everything else, and seating and all those kinds of things, so that there would be a commercial front on Main Street. But they also recognized that they had to do something with that right of way. I think we could leave it up to them if we were to say, we're not going to tell you where to put this 10-foot path that is essentially built to complete street standards on your property, but it needs to go from here to here.
however you want to do it. If you want to integrate it into your commercial establishments as part of your whole route, then we would happily endorse that and surrender that right away if you can say to us that this is a public, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That might be a better way to work with a developer, to say to them, come up with a better idea that gets us what we're looking for, which is connectability, and you'll end up with people using it that will eventually be exactly why we're doing it to begin with.
You could say, since the town owns the streets and the applicant is requesting an abandonment of the streets, you could say the town is willing to abandon the streets for vehicular access, but at the same time, the town recognizes the value the streets present to public access to the waterfront, and therefore, we would like to request the developer to, therefore, we would like to request the town to, retain a portion of this for public access easement for pedestrian circulation, and perhaps negotiate with the developer on how to, work out this connection between the waterfront and through the property, and leave it to them to decide how the design and the development could happen. Because essentially, this is still will be owned by the town. You're abandoning the streets, but then you're still trying to retain a portion of it as an easement. So it'll still be
Yes.
the town property, and you're not asking developer to, work on the town property unless, they are willing to do so. That's a negotiation they should do, because the development is not the subject of this discussion.
But my assumption currently that those roadways are, 16, 18 feet wide. We're not asking for that. We need a 10 to a 12, we need 14 feet max.
Okay.
Maybe 12 feet we could get away with to do a nice, complete streets with 2 feet on each side of it.
Okay. Mr. Staley?
So, to mention again the discontinuance process, are we going to go through that or not? Do we have to?
What?
The discontinuance process of the roads. Does it have to go public?
It doesn't have to. 8-24 reviews by state statute do not require a public hearing unless, like in the past, Madam Chair wanted to have a public hearing for the Juliet Low Park, so per her request, we did that, but the statutory requirements don't
Okay,
ask
so
us for
this
public hearing.
property that we're going to give up, so to speak, they're going to create something in lieu of that for access to the waterfront.
That's
Well,
what we're
that's-
trying to do.
That's what we want them to do,
Right.
yes.
Okay, will that be up to us or zoning, once we approve that?
No, when we approve it, as the memo from Susmitha, or actually from Bruce Jackson to
Bruce
Susmitha,
Jackson.
it says that the commission, if it chooses to abandon the streets, that they would recommend that abandonment include the access and utility easements. So we would have then the town would negotiate with the developer
Okay, so that's
how
down the road.
that's done.
Yes, and essentially, this is owned by the town, so you cannot request a developer to come and work off and on a town-owned land. But the town has full control on this, and they can use the sidewalk money to build a pathway as part of the development.
On the easement.
On the easement, yes.
Do we have to indicate the size of the easement? Or can we just say an easement?
I would defer it to the town engineer, and that, since he is not present here today, I would say, per John Casey's comments, we would like to, include access and utility easements on these abandoned streets, and the size and the width of these streets, these easements will be in accordance with the town engineer description.
But may we add in there that we're not talking about a walkway path, that we are talking about a complete street, which is a 10-foot, not a 4-foot sidewalk? Because it makes a big difference.
Well, it depends on how wide the streets are to begin with. And unfortunately, I don't see the width of the streets.
We're not even sure what is going to be built there.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions. Do you know what's going to be built there?
I
Yeah,
think
it's
Ray
a
told me that there is a.
conceptual
mixed-use,
drawing.
Right.
Yeah, something that came before zoning commission, or, the mixed-use development? Or?
It came before the Planning Commission. At that time, my recollection is that it was strictly commercial. I think Mr. Senft remembers it that way, but some of the other members remember it as being mixed use. So that's why we're
It's
questioning.
changed.
Not sure, I mean.
It may have changed, we don't know. I mean, I see one story here. I also recall during the presentation that I thought they said that they were going to have a trail along the riverfront.
This is
And there looks to be something there.
developer to town site.
So, this is
May I
sort of
make-
premature.
Hold on, Mr. Staley.
This is sort of premature. I mean, we're looking at the land and not the usage. We don't know what the usage will be yet, but we're concerned about our roadways that are there being abandoned and having access to the waterfront.
Correct, so,
And I'm all for development there.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we already approved
We did.
in concept
right.
the development there. Now you get into the details.
Okay.
But I do know at the time, the commission wanted to have access to the riverfront.
Sure.
So that, the way to do that is through an easement for, and also for the utilities. Mr.
Right.
Watson?
I wish I had my magnifying glass because it's very hard reading this, but on the document that, that's called Conceptual Site Development Plan Access Easements, Conceptual Site Development Plan, Parkway Plaza, Stratford, Connecticut, proposed access easements from developer to the town of Stratford. If you look on Main Street, right in the center of the property, there's a diagonally lined roadway that goes in. And then up where the existing dirt lane starts now, there is from town of Stratford to developer, saying that we'll give them that other piece of land. Above it, it says from developer to town of Stratford. So they're
Yes.
cutting out, but if you,
Is this the page
yeah,
you're looking at?
that's
No,
the
the
thing.
last-
That's the thing.
Last page.
But if you look at it, this is not a dedicated roadway. This has cutouts through parking. If I'm looking at it, if I'm reading it carefully, it's really nothing more than a lane, an exit lane from parking lots.
Yeah, because if you look at the, if you're going by the scale, it's almost 50 feet.
Yeah, there is no trail running through this. There's an exit lane that runs through this, and they're saying the town owns it.
So
They owns the easement, which is not what we had spoken to them about when they were in here.
I was about to say the same thing, but, you were requesting 10-foot wide sidewalks, but it looks like based on the drawing, they're asking for abandonment of streets because they can use this as driveways for their retail, and it looks like they're all one-story retail buildings. And in this case, if you ask the town engineer, based on the interior layout of the site, how much would be a good size for having an easement for pedestrians? That itself would, like, in relation to what the size of the street is, and, having two cars in opposite directions go through this, and still have room for pedestrian circulation as an easement, that's something that the town engineer has to come up with as a detail. So if you want me to get additional information on this, you don't have to vote on this tonight. I will go back to the town engineer, work out all the details regarding the exact measurements, and then come back so you can make an informed decision on this.
Mr. Staley?
Yeah, and if they're,
Hold on.
Looks like they've done a,
Go ahead,
I'd like to see this area developed. It's a sort of nothing area that's just waiting. But it looks like from the developer to the town of Stratford, it's a nice S all the way down, S shape all the way down to the water. But there's a section prior to that from the town of Stratford to the developer that sort of cuts that off, that front end from
that's the back end.
River Road. Oh, that's the back end? Right here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's to the river.
Ah, okay, so that's
Here's
cut
the-
off.
Here's Main Street, yeah.
That's still cut off. So the back end is cut off, not the front end.
Correct.
from the developer to...
Well, not only that, I think,
To cut off their access.
Mr. Sim?
no, I think Sethmitha brings up a good point. I think we should wait and get all the facts. First of all, for a developer, you know, that's going to be soliciting maybe retail business, it might be to their best interest to work with us on this, you know, because obviously people walking through there will bring business to these, you know, to whatever they decide that they're going to be doing. But I think, you know, to run this through the middle of their you know, it looks like, you know, parking area would be difficult at best. So I think we need to come up with a plan.
Mr. Bigliotti, did you have a comment?
Well, I was just going to say that it appears that, you know, the way this is drawn, the town of Stratford is giving back to the developer the end of the path, which is closest to the water, which seems to be cutting off public access to the river, which is what we want in the first place.
That's a good point. Can you bring this back to the town engineer or the developer or whomever? Could you also ask them about whether they do intend to have a pathway along the riverfront?
Certainly, but I see that Attorney Rosati is here, and he can answer some of these questions.
Oh.
And if you would like for him to come and up to the dais to answer the questions.
Sure, please. Thank you.
See the same with you.
I can't.
See the same as earlier.
Thank you for inviting.
Many hats.
Attorney Robert Rosati again. It's confusing, but the key is the town still retains part of Ryder's Lane in the back. So there's going to be, and I can show you a zoning exhibit plan that labels where Ryder's Lane is. So I understand your comments where it might, on that smaller scale, look like we're cutting off access, but Ryder's Lane still exists there and has nothing to do with this request to abandon. So the plan certainly is to grant easements back and forth between the town and developer so that when we get our site plan approved and our special case application approved for the CNC development that we're proposing, they're going to have the final say as to where the easements and town access and walkways are going to go. But there certainly is the intention to grant these cross easements, not so they stop, but so they continue into the other property that's still owned by the town. And again, I can pass this to you guys to show you where Ryder's Lane is
Yeah, it might be
going to
easier for us
remain.
to view it.
So Ryder's Lane, intent is to give cross easements between the town and the developer. The final say being the zoning commission as part of that site plan approval, to the Ryder's Lane that's still going to be owned. And they're also going to have a say as to access from other land owned by the existing Ryder's Lane is owned by the developer as well. So there's going to be, there's going to have to be an access agreement here as well.
So, yeah, but Ryder's Lane is over here.
Yes, 88 Ryder's is here.
Ryder's Lane is here, so I think the biggest concern is the accessibility to get to Ryder's Lane, right? So if we're looking at the accessibility to Ryder's Lane right now, like I said, people are parking across the street, they've got to cross over here with no crosswalk to get over to Ryder's Lane. I think what we're saying here is to have better access going through here, going through the property with the easement, and going through here and connecting to Ryder's Lane to get to that walkway that goes across the bridge.
I do know the engineer is going to be in discussions with the town planner, with Mr. Urbanski, and us with the board as to how that's, but there's no intention to cut it off right here, which is what I think. Yeah, because this, Ryder's Lane here is not labeled on this model, but this is not part of the abandonment, this is Ryder's Lane. Goes back here.
So where is
This is owned by the town of Stratford.
This,
So is that where the easement starts?
right here, that's.
We somehow, with the final plan, have to.
Well, Bob, here's the, so here's what we're talking
Yeah.
about right here, right? Right, so it's over here.
Yeah, but somehow, the town owns this.
Excellent.
Yeah,
The town owns this, and this is what we're looking for. We're looking for accessibility to get over here,
And that's
right?
going to be part of the site plan and special case
Yeah.
approval.
And I think right now is Matt Street.
Uh,
No, they're showing through the parking lot. Yeah, basically, and again, this is a proposal. They're showing in the middle of the parking lot, the parking lot also, the parking lot area going over to where the easement area is, correct?
plus something that's going to be involved on the lane.
I just think if they work with us on this, it's beneficial for all of us, right?
I do, see, this is part of the,
The access down here.
you want it over here, right, sure, you want it over here, before this line, right?
Well,
You actually want it up here.
here's the,
You want it up here.
here's the problem right here. You've got the light right here, right? And this, you've got traffic coming here, right? You got traffic going this way, and then everybody's going up to Main Street, Putney over here, they're going straight. So I think that, I mean, because there's a light here, you know, they're gonna have to do something to allow pedestrians to be able to cross.
We discussed this, see, this is part of the green plan.
Yeah,
And there's another light
it's
right here.
also part of the redevelopment of the Main Street.
Eventually, we're gonna end up with a green one on both sides, and
All I can say is,
in discussions with Jay, he had talked about, we had talked about where Putney comes down here, putting in bike attenuated stop sign, running a trail right across Main Street, 20 feet long, which would include 10 feet of retail, tables and everything else, that would then come around and come up through here and go around here.
and I think we show, isn't that what we show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do show it. The
So
other,
maybe that was that might be the result of that conversation.
I think this is at the second line, and this is
Right by the
the
parkway.
line
that brings up a good point, because.
So we don't own this. Strictly-
Well, that's why we had said we would go with running it along Main Street here on the state right of way. Because there's 20 feet of state right of way there.
That's part of the development and the zone change in the new CNC zone, but,
This house,
it's not.
The last house
It's not-
to go,
yeah.
right?
No,
That's
these two are included, but not part of the.
That blue house that,
Pickle Rosman
Yeah.
Street.
So they all,
They all came on board.
So if this is Main Street Putney's line,
Yeah.
why can't it come back in here?
This is all subject to a change and subject to final approval, subject to your input. The problem is, we're in, do you put
That's
the
why
cart,
I'm saying-
do we put the cart before the, we
That's why I'm
can't
saying-
come in with a plan to get approved until we've made.
But you would still.
Right,
You
yeah.
would stipulate in this that we are going to give you a first rate, based on
That's why,
national Fleet Street standards of a greenway.
that's why we included this. I don't think it's the planning commission's, they'll have the authority with this report or the town councils that's gonna be the condition of the final. Well, that's gonna be the condition of the final site plan approval. But you could certainly say, you could
we could
certainly.
send our
You
information
could
on.
certainly say, yeah, we recommend abandoning these roads as long as you guys
I-
come up with.
I concur with Mr. Rosati, and today our discussion is not about development. Today our discussion is purely about abandoning of streets, whether we want to do it or not do it, and if we want to do it, do we want an easement or no? That's all.
That's in your recommendation.
And everything else regarding a walkway to be constructed there. Who constructs the walkway is between the town and the developer, and they get to decide, like, if it's a town-owned easement, so if the town wants to do it, they will do it, but if they want to negotiate a deal with the developer, it's up to them.
But if we were to say, no, we don't want to abandon these, we would put you in a situation where you would have to come negotiate.
Well, you don't, it's like if we don't abandon the streets, we are hurting ourselves because the development cannot happen without the necessary circulation pattern. And so the best that we can do for this is to request our share of public easement in terms of access and utilities. Mhm.
Right now, it's a horseshoe of dirt roads that go to abandoned houses, so it doesn't serve anybody any purpose. Yeah, no,
I just want to see that trail in there.
we're not gonna get our site plan approval without public access to the water. We're just not. We know that.
Yes.
We've also, in your plans, this is much easier to see, but is there public access
Well,
trail?
here's the problem. It goes straight down. So, yeah, that is why.
Well, it's still going to be raised up. It could be
With a little bit of a water area, I think it's on the water.
Yeah, we can't.
And if you look at the future FEMA maps, it's even more.
Yeah, so because it goes straight down, it's still.
I'm just trying to find a way for the public to be able to see.
Well, obviously, you can convey our concern.
Madam Chair, I think we should wait and get the town engineer's opinion on the size of the easement, and because at this point, I don't even know where the underground utilities are to determine how much of an easement through that street that we are requesting. So if you give me more time, I will come back and, yeah.
No, it's still the Spriglios who own all of this. Rosnick, Picklo, but they've got a joint venture to get it approved and
Completely
bring
buys
this
into it because he
development
wants a 10-foot
together.
sidewalk there.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if the street is that wide.
Yeah, that's the Spriglios.
Well,
The Spriglios. So it's,
what if the street is on?
yeah, it's a catch-22. We need the road plan to go forward to see how we're gonna give you guys these. But we understand your concerns. If you wanna recommend it,
Actually, we'll know
subject
by
to
next
that,
week if I get the
I'm
measurements.
okay with that.
Yeah.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much for the information. I think right now, if I understand correctly, we're in agreement to table this until the next meeting in lieu of getting more information from the town engineer.
October.
Can I have a motion? For the- Okay, Mr. Staley, seconded by
Second.
Mr. Vigliotti. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And Ms. Smithy, you know our concerns and questions.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's the 824 review. Moving right along. Nothing on the discussion of the 5.3 zoning regulations yet, right? Number 6, nothing on erosion, sediment, nothing on a bond release, implementation plan. On the Greenway project, in going through the minutes, I noticed that we did not formally appoint Mr. Watson to the Greenway Committee and Mr. Staley as a alternate in a formal vote. You guys fight it out now, I'm on it. But, so I'd like to get that done, because then I will be sending a letter to the chair, Linda Pepin, regarding that, and to make sure that they, as well as the town planner, gets
No, I
minutes,
think we'll-
agendas, and cancellations
think-
and everything. Okay, I've
I think
written.
she's going to make two. Oh, did she
So
say?
you just-
Okay.
So can I have a motion?
I would like to make a motion that Mr. Watson and Mr. Staley represent the Planning Commission on the Greenway project
Could I adjust that slightly?
Certainly.
That as full members of the,
as full members of the Greenway project.
And I'd like to second that.
okay, and Mr. Staley, you wanted, we were going to say Mr. Staley was an alternate, now we're going to go with a full-time. Okay,
Darn right.
You're going to have to come anyhow, so you might as well be a full-time.
yeah, might as well. Okay, so we have a motion, second by Mr. Senft. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 That's unanimous.
Oh,
Madam Chair,
No,
I
go
just want to add something on the Greenway Committee.
Yep. Mrs. Smith?
I still think that in order to be more productive, the Greenway Committee should, instead of meeting on their own, be invited to the Planning Commission once every 3 months, because we have 2 full members here now, and then discuss their plans. And if there are more elaborate discussions that should happen, that could happen as administrative, discussions during the business hours, not outside the business hours. I'm telling this because right now we have so many boards, commissions, and then committees, and then we are also trying to do the CRS implementation. That's another committee, and our number of committees list is increasing, but as a staff, there are only 2 of us, me and Jay. And if we can, find a way to combine some of these and maximize our time in the meetings that we are in, it would be helpful and more productive than us having to come for another separate weekly meeting for this. And then, again, it's just a matter of how to maximize our time appropriately in between these committees.
Okay. Well, I know that we have talked about combining the Greenway Committee and the Complete Streets Committee.
Those 2 are different because the Complete Streets Committee is not appointed by anyone. It is just a citizen-led committee that the Planning and Zoning Administrator has formed for the sake of the project, whereas the Greenway Committee is formally instituted through the Planning Commission. So the Complete Streets Committee, yes, we can invite the members to be part of any major discussions, but they're not a formal committee of their own, like the Greenway Committee.
So what if we made them?
could I comment on that? Because they're almost the same
The
group of
same
people.
members? Okay,
With Complete Streets, we had specifically targeted several business people,
okay.
mainly in the Todd, who wanted to be directly involved with what the planning was. But for the most part, it's the same group of people.
If that's the case, then whoever is new,
I'd like to
who's
comment
not
on
part
that,
of this,
Mr.
I can
Watson?
just get them separately. We don't have to invite, everyone, but just invite the Greenway Committee. That's a subcommittee of the Planning Commission.
Well, we can invite the Greenway Committee and see, so to accept your suggestion, I can put that in the letter, inviting them maybe to our next meeting. And then we can, at that time, discuss whether the 2 groups
Yeah.
could go together, and that
That's
would
fine with
save
me.
you a meeting, and it would also prevent any conflicts.
And if they don't want to, there are times during the day when we can meet, like in a lunch hour, like a lunch meeting, or early morning, 8 to 9 a.m. before work, or, evening 3 to 4, so that we can, it's like we want to make sure that we are dedicating our time effectively to these committees.
Mr. Staley, you wanted to say something?
That was a while ago. I think I forgot what I was
sorry.
going to say.
Sorry.
No, nothing to be sorry about, but dealt with the Greenway, and then having to come here administratively. I don't know when they meet or who calls the meetings, and I understand what you're saying. You mentioned this last month.
I think they have an upcoming meeting in October. They meet once every 3 months, so they don't have to come every month.
Right.
Whenever they're meeting, like the quarterly meeting, Maybe we can invite them around 7 o'clock or something and just have them, sit in the center table there and discuss, as part of the larger planning, because they're actually a subcommittee of the Planning Commission. And that way the Planning Commission is also informed on what they're doing. And most of the times they don't meet if there's no business. Like if there is a Greenway plan that's going to be implemented, or a grant, or, the engineer has a question on a detail that he needs input on, that's when they're meeting. And that's something that everybody of us can weigh in on. And I don't see a reason why not have it part of the administrative discussions. Instead of us sitting here and asking for updates, maybe, invite them, depending on our schedule. If it's not a public hearing day, we can ask them to come first thing and waive the rules and have them go first. But if we have a public hearing item, maybe invite them around 7:30 or 8 o'clock, and then do this.
Okay, I can add that into the letter, inviting them to our October meeting, and then
And then
we'll
we can,
figure out the time.
yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
okay. If there's nothing else on that, complete streets?
I did enclose pictures of our informational booth that was showcased at the Stratford Phoenix Festival on September 7th. It was very well attended, and there were many residents who stopped by our booth and expressed their pleasure in seeing the town think about bikeways and, bicycle connectivity. This was an initiative that was sponsored by the state DOT in partnership with Capital Region Council of Governments and the Metropolitan Regional Council of Governments. So I just wanted you to know this because it was a public education campaign. I did distribute postcards on this Complete Streets web page and what materials they can access. And I still have a lot of those postcards with me, and I intend to keep them out at every public workshop or meeting that we'd have relating any planning project in the town.
I'm just reading some of the little notes on the pictures. Things like very nice, I like it, great idea. Some of them I can't read. Like the outdoor seating, where else can we park? Shortage, bike,
Shortage of parking,
yeah, bike, I think bars, bike bars?
Bike boxes.
Boxes, oh. What are bike boxes?
Make it better for families.
Oh, gotcha, okay, and then are we friendly, sort of? And they want to see more bike lanes, more bike racks, bring back bike park, walkway on Ferry Boulevard, help others understand pedestrians right-of-way, bike location. So they have some good, very good suggestions. Very good. Well, thank you very much for doing that. Any comments and further discussion on that?
I have an update on paving. The Department of Transportation is going to pave Route 113 in 2020, so Main Street is going to get paved.
Okay.
And so therefore, it was just brought to my attention that anything that has to do with complete streets should be made aware of that, so they,
Yeah.
if anything's going to happen, it should happen either hopefully before the paving is done, or,
In
so that there's no,
conjunction, certainly.
so it doesn't be undone.
Who can I talk to regarding this?
State Rep Joe Gresco, he was the one who gave me the information.
Okay, I'll reach out to him. Okay.
Jim, where do they
Good
pave it?
information.
From where to where?
He didn't say. He just told me it was going to be, Main Street.
Yeah, because they just paved Upper Main Street. Well, I shouldn't say upper, but
They rounded up.
from Mill River right down to, what's that little pond there? Yeah,
Next month.
yeah.
It's probably going to
Maybe the rest
continue
of it,
down.
'cause it
Yeah, it's
really
probably going to
needs
go
it.
down to Barnum, maybe?
The part of Complete Streets is a repaving. So it could be that it's simply funding for the Todd Complete Streets section.
Well, he said that it's separate. It's not, it's like its own standalone project. So if it's going to, just to kind of make sure it's coordinated so that.
That would be nice.
That's good information.
Giving
Good.
a facelift to the whole street.
Yeah,
Right.
Good, thanks for that information, that's good.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Yeah, we-
coastal resiliency plan?
Thousands of dollars.
I bring.
We did get an approval from FEMA, not an approval, but an interest from FEMA to visit our water pollution control facility site. They're coming down on September 26th with their deep staff, and once they assess the situation, they will probably go ahead and fund the project, which is a great success for all of us.
Yeah.
So that's the next step.
Super, okay.
Is there a chance that any of us could attend this?
I don't think so. It's just their staff, the town engineer, and maybe the WPCF head, and that's it. I think it will be me and Jay. I can ask John Casey if he would like for you to come as well. But I think it was just a staff discussion, technical meeting.
Okay, thank you, that's good news. Okay. Our other items, digital sign draft ordinance.
All right. Do you want me to talk about that?
Well, you should have a copy of the draft ordinance. Now, this has been sent to the town departments?
Yes, no comments, and the next, no comments from anyone, so maybe if you would like, I can request this to be passed to the zoning commission as an official petition from the town planning department or from the planning commission, and then have the zoning commission, review it, and that's when they get the town attorney involved again, I think,
And hopefully adopt it.
and hopefully adopt.
Okay, how about if we have a motion to send this with a favorable recommendation to zoning? Or you have a... Oh, okay.
It's like a page and a half compared to what it was when we started.
Yeah.
You want to look at mine? Do you want to look at it?
I read it, I just can't, I don't know where I...
Okay, I think it would be page 2.
Yeah, they did it.
Number 3, it says, prior to obtaining a permit, the part I'm concerned about is the applicant shall provide a written certification from the sign manufacturer. So the town of Stratford will be the applicant.
Probably, yes. But they
Okay, and they're going
still,
to, and in the application to do it, they're going to show the conformance.
yes.
Thank you.
So are we ready to send it on? Mr. Watson?
Maybe you worked the hardest on it, you should send this on.
Yeah, maybe.
Sorry,
You want to be the second, Mr. Staley?
I'll second. Go ahead.
Staley?
I must say something. Thank you so much for the video and the pictures. The video was very helpful, and I could convince my colleague Jay, using the video, that it is not a bad idea. But at the same time, there are some concerns. I wouldn't say that I don't have any concerns on this, but I would let the attorney decide based on the,
Moving forward.
legality of this.
Thank you.
And,
Okay, that's his job.
yes.
Mr.
So I
Staley,
propose the ordinance amendment to 16, section 16 signs, which is 16.2, I believe, with the draft amendment to the zoning committee, is it?
Commission, yeah,
Commission.
with a favorable recommendation.
Favorable recommendation, yes.
Thank you very much. Second?
Heartily second that.
Okay.
Long time here.
You're ahead of your time, Mr. Watson. Okay.
Oh,
all in-
sorry.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That sounds unanimous. So if you can take care of that, and then we'll see what happens. Okay, text amendment, that was tabled. I think we'll leave it there. No update on the MetroCog bike share yet? Okay. No update on the discussion of the Shakespeare property. no decisions have been made, have they?
For the Shakespeare property, the next step was to bring it back to the council, and I don't think they did it yet.
Okay. All right, so now we're on to amendment to Section 12, All-Street Parking Regulations. And I believe that's attachment F.
Yes, I thought the attachment that I gave you at this transmitter is more simplified than the previous ones. And this one actually includes those 3 categories that were missing in the big matrix, which is the high school parking, convenience markets, and food store and supermarket parking. So the elementary parking is where we tabled, and if you want to take off from there, and this was discussed so many times before this commission, even before I was part of this. I think you all might have actually, discussed all this, and it's just a part of voting. And we don't even have to vote on this right now, because Jay mentioned that it was not formally submitted to the zoning commission yet. And so no vote is required right now, because all we're doing is we're finalizing this, and then Jay's going to submit to the zoning commission. It'll come back to the planning again, just like the digital signs. That's when a formal vote will be taken to approve the ordinance.
You don't want an encouraging vote.
It's just if you have any concerns, or if you think something is unreasonable and you don't approve of something, maybe that's when, we can discuss. Otherwise, this will be presented
These
to
we
the
all
zoning
take.
commission. If you have any concerns, let us
It's
know.
only these that were new.
So, on what we're discussing, attachment F, proposed amendment, this is Jay Hibansky and your compilation of what we've been through over time?
Actually, this is what Jay had compiled last time, after you all discussed this at your planning commission meetings. And this is it. I haven't changed a word in that,
This
except
goes
the
back
first
over 2
where
years,
we,
almost.
yeah.
I think it was before you were on this.
Okay,
Almost
Commission.
2 years ago, some of these
We
things
made some
we
changes.
really ironed out over months.
that sounds like it has
So
been.
if you have
Yeah,
no
but John,
comments or
here-
concerns, I will take
right.
it back to zoning.
Mr.
I mean,
Vigliotti?
we did
Yeah.
approve,
Six or-
or,
six
we
or eight
agreed with
items.
2 of the recommendations
Right.
when we were at our meeting in August.
The first 2 we approved.
The
For
health clubs and the
automotive
automotive.
services, right, so those are.
Yes.
Sorry, okay, when we discussed this back in August, we approved, or we agreed with the 250 square feet for the health clubs and 200 square feet for the automotive services, or 3 spaces per bay. So that's stuff that we,
Right.
as a commission, agreed on, last time. So we're trying to get, make a little bit of movement on this so that it can be, I guess, sent to zoning. So,
So reading this, if I can make a comment, the only thing I see that we were not in agreement on, we never really ironed it out because we didn't have any information to do it other than the map that you came up with, was the amount for schools. We were asking for more information, and I know you brought the Nichols map, hoping that that would answer it, but was there any other kind of formula? And I don't think there is. You're going to have teachers in the lots, and you're going to have
And there is no benchmark for the town. This is all new because there was nothing in the ordinance before. And so, looking at other towns, comparatively, we came up with this number. And if you think, you can go ahead and have some kind of standard that is like most optimal for now, and then take it as it goes, like an application comes in and maybe a school would say, this is not enough, we need more, or we need less, and reason it out, and then see how you can tweak the ordinance. That's a good way to go than have nothing to start off with. So,
I look at it, currently, everything's grandfathered anyhow, so it's not like we're going to retroact. The only thing that we would have here, even with the schools, is the new high school parking lot. But my assumption is, maybe I'm wrong, but they've already built the parking lots. So even that really essentially is grandfathered.
Yeah, so that was, because I was on the building needs for that, and I remember it was based on really feedback we got from the administrators as far as
How many,
what they're,
how many they needed.
how many they needed for administrators, for teachers, and then they broke it down by students, and then, I think there was a recommended standard based on the size of the building at first, but yeah.
by square footage?
I think so, but we didn't necessarily go by that because we've got a small space. Yeah.
I don't know how to ask this. Is it possible for us to do a vote on this and give our planning and zoning administrators a little bit of a, something positive, since this has been hanging around for so long?
That's so nice of you. All we need is you to say, go ahead, apply, submit it before the zoning commission, that's all. We don't even need a vote.
Okay.
I think we're all in agreement, go ahead.
We don't even need to vote on it.
Not now, we'll do it.
Okay,
We'll do it when they send it back.
all right.
Okay, any members' comments, concerns? Okay, guess what? Hearing none? Mr. Staley, I saw that hand.
Oh, may I
What?
make one comment? Connecticut Coastal Resiliency just came out with a new set of tools. If you go to the University of Connecticut Circa, if you go to the Circa website, there is a new tool that will allow you to really zone into your neighborhood even, to find out what conditions are now, what they're expected to be in 5 years, and it really is good in terms of coastal resiliency. Yeah, excellent. They have something that's really workable now.
Thank you for that little information. Now, Mr. Staley. Thank you. Seconded by Mr. Vigliotti. All in favor, say aye.
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 I think that's
See how what you've been missing?
unanimous.
Our fun times and. I'm glad you're.